So when connecting the arms, we're pretty much doing the same thing as with the legs, but there's a little bit more involved because we've got three joint sets for the IKFK switch. We've got shoulder controllers as well, or clavicle controllers, which are currently in the mix. And we've also got our wrists or our hands that we haven't connected yet either. So it's the same idea, but there's a few more connections to make. So first things first, I'll do the hands. So the hand, whether you got right now, I've just got the wrist, but if you had fingers, this would represent the fingers. So you would parent them back to the arm. So specifically, you want to parent your fingers or your hand joint, whatever you have there, back to the slave end joint. So I'm going to go and find that joint specifically. I'm just going to grab it here so I can find, there's my left upper arm slave. I'm going to shift click to open that up. And the left hand slave is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to take my fingers, control click, oops, left hand slave, and hit P for parent. So now they're parented. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Find my right hand slave, there it is. Select the right hand end. Control click the right hand slave and parent. So again, you're parenting the fingers of your hand or your hand to the slave joints, not the FK or the IK joints. That will go to the slave. So next we need to connect our arm joints to the clavicle, which I've got right here. So it's right now the clav is just kind of floating, but it's just another joint that's near the chest, where the two clavicles meet near the center. And then all three of your IK, FK, and slave joints get parented to that. So left up arm slave, left up arm FK, and left arm up arm IK. So all three. Select those first, shift click your left clavicle, or left shoulder, whatever you've got it labeled, and hit P. And they're parented. Some people have been having issues where when doing this, the FK arm jumps down to the bottom of the grid. If that happens, there's somewhere along the line you must have missed a freeze or something. Not the end of the world. If that happens, I'm just going to undo what I just did. So if you hit P at this point and your FK jumps to the grid, don't panic, undo it. And before you parent it, so I'll also make the same selection. So all three joint chains, slave, up arm IK, up arm FK. Before you parent them, group them. So Control G. That'll create a brand new group. Call that left underscore arm underscore GRP. If you want to, you could call it joint group, because it's really the joints. Too many underscores. I went underscore crazy. It's a byproduct of being trapped for COVID. Underscore madness. Yes, it is a thing. I suffer from it. Pity me. So I got the group. I can parent the group to the joint instead. So if that happens, that's the way around it. In my case, mine was clean. I didn't miss anything along the way, so it doesn't happen. But if it does, just group the shoulders first, or the joints first, and that'll take care of that problem. So you can see I've got a group containing all the arm joint setups. It's not a bad thing to do anyway. Just, again, tidies up the scene, which is, again, never a bad thing to be organized. So I'm going to do the same thing for the right side. Got all my slave, FK, and up arm IK joints. And I will group them too to be similar on both sides. Control G. And once again, right arm JNT GRP, right arm joint group, and I will parent that group to the clavicle. Now, they've actually made an update in Maya, which is kind of nice, which is new to me. Now, when you parent through groups, joints, it still draws the joint. In the last version and any other version of Maya previous to this, it never didn't do that. So if you parented through a group, you wouldn't get the visual. But yeah, they've obviously made a change. So those of you who like to see the joints connected, here you go. They've catered to your needs. Now, next thing I need to do is connect my clavicle controls, because right now they're just kind of hovering in space. Now I can parent or I can constrain. Neither is right or wrong in this case. I'm going to do a basic parent. Really, the only reason I would need to use a constraint in this scenario is if I wanted to disable this control for some reason, which I don't. I don't have any FK-IK switching happening in the shoulder, so I'm going to parent it directly. So I'm going to parent the joint to the controller, because you always have to give control over to the control object. So I'm going to select the joint first, the shoulder joint, shift-click the controller, hit P, and again, always test it once you've got things connected, just to make sure it's doing what you expect it to. That looks good. Do the same thing on the other side. Select the joint, shoulder joint, the right shoulder controller, P. So now, again, if I give my hip a test, see it's not following yet. That's because I haven't connected the controls to my upper body yet. So next, I'm going to grab both of my shoulder controls, which currently have command over the entire arm system. I'm going to parent both of those controllers to the spine joint that's pretty much the one next to them, directly across down. You would never parent them up to the next joint. It's always down to the next joint. So for me, it's spine 3. But depending on how many spine joints you have, it may be spine 4 or 5 for you. It's whatever one is visually the next one down. So just keep that in mind. Now I'll do my hip test again. There we go. So now the arms are connected to the spine, and they are following along for the ride, which is perfect. So I'm going to zero this out. So we're not done with the arms quite yet, because we can't forget the IK. So I'm going to go and switch my IK-FK switch over to IK mode. And just make sure that's working. Actually, it looks like this side isn't working. So looks like I did not finish my node graph connections over here, so I'm going to have to deal with that after. But do not panic. I can button the rig up this way before I finish these connections, but we're going to pretend that this arm is done. I thought I had done it already. Oh dear. But it is what it is. So what I want to do here is set up my pull vector, just like I did with the knee. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other side, or with the lower part of the body. I'm going to group each of them to themselves. So Control G, Control G. Group 1 will be left underscore arm underscore PV group. Copy that. Make sure you label the other group and change the name prefix. There we go. And same thing, I'm going to constrain the groups between, in this case, I'm going to do it between the shoulder controller and the IK controller, the IK hand controller. So I'm going to select both of those first on the left side, grab my left PV group, constrain, point. Same thing for the other arm, both the wrist and shoulder controls. Control click the right arm PV group and constrain, point. So the same settings as the leg. Now to test it, pretty much, if we grab the IK controls and the hip controls and move the character down, the pull vector should slide along with it. which they are. And then undoing that, if I move this control around, you can see now it stays halfway between the shoulder and the IK, no matter where we put it. And we still have the ability to move this and keyframe it on its own because it's inside the group, just like the knees. So that is now complete. I'm going to zero this out. I'm going to make sure those are zeroed out, which looks like they are. So now in doing that, we have made this one complete rig. Now, sometimes when people are in IK mode, when they do the hip test, if you don't select the IK and do this, again, pretending that our slave is following along there, people panic because the arms aren't moving along. That's how IK works. That's what IK is supposed to do. The feet aren't moving along either, but that doesn't panic you because they're on the ground and you're used to that. But that's what IK is all about. IK is about having your wrist or your hand and your feet staying put when you move other things. When you're in FK mode, so I'll switch my controls back, it'll be fine. It's normal for the FK to move along because FK does not stay planted like IK does. FK requires you to rotate it to move it. So that is a normal function of an IK-FK system. One other little mistake I've made here, I should have the visibility of these pole vector controllers to also turn off when I do my IK-FK switch. So in the node graph, I would plug the visibility of the controls into my IK-FK visibility, which I haven't done here yet. So that's why they're not disappearing. Because again, at a glance, it's like, oh, there's something going on. These aren't following properly. But we're not even supposed to see these right now. The reason they're not following is because the hidden IK is actually still up here. So they're doing exactly what they should. I just shouldn't see this right now. So that's okay. So that is pretty much it from a connection standpoint. Everything is buttoned up and tied together from a hierarchy standpoint, and this is a final rig as far as, again, hierarchy goes. Now, I'm still not done because I need to make this cleaner and then also lock up some things so that the animator can't accidentally break the rig. So I'll do that in the next video.